Welcome back, Visions fans. Ready Player Will here. Today, this is the best I can do in the meantime for a Sylvie showcase. I went 5-0 in the class match. Now, there are some major asterisks on this, so let me get this out of the way before we proceed any further. Number one, yes, it is agility 20% for light units, so the effects of this fight are greatly overstated from what you would normally expect from a turn order and speed perspective. That 20%, I'm using a Jaden, Sylvie, and Elena comp that gives them all 11 extra agility. You will not normally have that, so that is a major factor in the strength of this. Number two, the ranking at which I compete in these class matches is absolutely not the highest of the high top tier. So when I talk about Guild Wars, I am typically talking about stress testing and maxing everything. That is not the case for this video. I ended up the day at 738. I started at about 1,000. Now, let me also preface this. I did not do any class match yesterday on Thanksgiving or the day before I was doing the Sylvie release. So I am behind 2 days on points. So that was a little bit of the reason why I started off at 1,000, but I went 5-0 today. I faced 2 ice comps, 2 light comps, and 1 earth comp. So I'm going to go through all 5 of them. And finally, this is just one view of how you can build your Sylvie. There's obviously many. I just want to talk a little bit about how and why I built her, how she fits into the comp that I'm using, what I think is strong, what is weak, and what I might end up tweaking. This is literally just research. There is nothing conclusive about these fights, I promise you. So don't get too excited just by the headline or just by the results or just by the numbers. There's a lot of things to still pick apart here, but it's better than nothing. I at least wanted to share with you some of what I saw and a little bit about my rationale as to how I build her. So first things first, let's look at the actual map in general. This map is agility 20% for light units, nullified quicken and haste, and reduced counter chance of 40% for everybody. Now, my current team, I do have them starting off here right smack in the middle in these 3 slots, and it's really a couple reasons. Number one, I want to maximize all the unit affinity of the extra 20% agility that also gives. So not only are they 20% from the map, but another 20% from the unit affinity. I also want to make sure that they stay clumped together, that as they move up toward the middle of the map here, that they retain that unit affinity for the turn order. And finally, I also have them here in the middle because I want to maintain the fight somewhere here in the middle. The last thing I want is for my team or the enemy team to start getting a little more spread out here, and then you add some extra chaos into the fight depending upon turn order or angles of attack or movement or who knows what. So that's my general idea for the opening rotation of how I approach this map. Now, when we talk about the comp itself, I am running Jaden, Sylvie, and Elena. I am running Elena at max evasion if I can. And I am running Jaden and Sylvie with the Alexandrite rings here. I have them both at +6 for that extra accuracy, knowing that light evade is still pretty popular where I'm playing in the rankings. Now, before I get into the AI that I'm using, and I'm not going to go 100% in here, just so I don't give away the entire comp, but talk about the balance of what I've chosen with the vision cards. I do want to retain the unit and AoE resistance, which is why I have the Jaden and Bahamut cards here. I also want to maximize my agility if possible, so the Bahamut does the 8% agility. Also, I have the Ramza card sub-slotted here on Elena, so I can have that extra agility in the sub-slot. I also know that gives light slash attack up, so both Sylvie and Elena will benefit from that. I also want to maximize Elena's evasion here, as well as some of the accuracy for both Sylvie and Jaden, and you could do that via high luck stats, right? So I have Elena's VC here in the main slot. This light vision card on the bottom here is also luck for the party for light units, and it's also some light resistance of 10, so for those mirror matchups that get the light resistance, but also has the acquired AP, which, although I do have bells on Jaden, both Elena and Sylvie don't start at full AP values. I want to at least have them also get some AP to start the fight. And then finally, I actually have Sylvie's VC in the sub slot here. Although I know the area resistance does get neutered, that's not one of my motivations for having it. It's really twofold. It's number one, just to ensure the extra critical hit rate for the magic attacks on all these units. But number two, it's genuinely for Sylvie's -2 hate. That when it comes time for target selection here, again, I have no bow ties on these characters. I have nothing here to dedicate hate, but I want Sylvie being attacked last. So that's why I have it in the subslot. Finally, from an AI perspective, I do have the TMRs off for both Sylvie and Elena. They're just there for the extra speed and partially for the extra evasion stat. It's not much. But this style of Sylvie that I'm playing does not emphasize healing. It's a pretty bare bones AI to start. I'm really relying on her limit break to ensure the longevity of the fight because, again, you have to just win one and done. I don't have to worry about any second attacks like in Guild Wars or anything where you need some healing to potentially replenish the low health. And from a sub-drop perspective, I was considering going with the White Mage for Sylvie for the full life. I'll probably test that tomorrow. Didn't seem to hurt me today, though. I'm really just focusing on her, moving with the team, and applying damage and debuffs where possible. So let's look at the replays. So fight number 1 was against Eliza, Snow, and Elia here. Pretty popular comp that we're seeing in class match. I was ready to anticipate this. Obviously, there are ways they can hit me with Snow's guaranteed hit as well as Elia's guaranteed hit on the sharpshoot, but we're going to see how things end up playing out here. So my opening rotation, now this first battle, I actually messed up the positioning initially. You'll notice I ended up switching in the second and third fight. What I wanted to do was have Jaden move to both of them and increase their agility on turn one. That ends up not happening here just because of the unit affinity being off. I correct that in the second fight once I realize it's wrong. But for now, my goal is literally just to kill them with speed. Just get the most turns possible, and that agility, particularly with the unit affinity, should help Elena evade a lot more, where that extra agility will certainly help her do so. Now you'll notice Ice is going through its normal buff rotation so far. Nothing too crazy. Snow is pretty straightforward. The tracking techniques on Eliza, looks like they're kind of going for that mirroring high agility. Tracking techniques on Eliza, and historically for me, typically best when turned off, but this map is long enough that certainly does have benefits. Notice, again, my fight, I'm keeping my teammate as clumped together as possible. Sylvie's AI is intentionally a little neutered so that after she uses her re-raise, she'll just slowly walk up little by little, nothing too crazy. You're getting the first sharpshooter here. That obviously hurts a ton on the lane. If that was a crit hit, probably brings her to courage, so I'm really happy that didn't happen. So at least here now you get that second attack to bring her to courage. If, again, she was at 1 HP, that would have killed her at that point. So definitely lucky on the crit evade, which is kind of the benefit of having such high luck stats. Adds to that crit evasion overall. You're going to see the fight continue to go on here. Elena is going to move forward here. Attack Snow. Again, he's already pretty much depleted on most of his health. I have not hit his courage yet, though, so keep that in mind. Sylvie, this is really the most important, impactful thing, is the limit break that she casts here. That now, not only does she heal Elena back up to full, but all of them get a physical magical shield one time. That's like the most critically important thing about Sylvie's kit, in my opinion, at least for some of that initial sustain. So you'll notice that sharpshoot does drastically less damage now for Elena. There's unerring shot. Now we proc the courage on Snow. Elena's going to move forward here. Just give him a little dink to finish him off. And again, if you're counting hate in your mind at this point in terms of who's being hit and not hit, again, it's kind of important to maintain Elena taking a lot of that aggro, even though she dies here to sharpshoot. Obviously, that evasion is a big part of her survivability, so I want people targeting her if possible. Now, Sylvie moves forward here, demolishes, and then we finish the fight here. Absolutely smoked in one hit. So that's fight number one. Now, class match number two, I get to go into a mirror matchup, or I'm sorry, a mirror matchup from the perspective of Monolite versus Monolite, but this is a very different comp in that it is Engelbert, Elena, Jaden, and I'm running tankless at the moment. So my personal opinion, I think Engelbert is a little bit power crept at this point. I just don't think his stats, agility-wise, are there to compete, and there's enough penetration that he just doesn't live as long as he normally should. But now you can see the rotation that I wanted. I wanted Jaden to go first, use his agility up on both of them, and now they're going to continue to move up the middle together. And that's particularly important because I want Jaden to also get the Zizabel's buff off. So that's a good, part of his maintaining his agility. I'm sorry, maintaining his AP. I'm sorry, but this light rotation too that they're using, I'm not a big fan of. You can tell that they didn't really do much with the initial placement, so kind of hard to really get a feel. But you can already tell this is probably what we call like a jank setup where Engelbert is already behind the Elena, and that probably shouldn't be the case. Obviously Elena does evade a hit there, that's cool, but probably get punished more often than not when you do that. So their Elena is at least evasive enough that it is taking the heat off for a while. Jamming thrust misses on my Elena. Now this Elena is going to keep using unevadable pain, and it's actually going to end up hurting her. She just doesn't really do enough to ever bring my Elena close to death, and so now get healed up. Elena gets that one-time shield. Sorry, a little bit of lag here because of the limit break. Engelbert's going to use Sentinel because he's now going to be in range of the enemy as he moves closer forward. Magiblast, they're all grouped up for that. That's fantastic. That just one-shots there, Jaden. Brings the Engelbert down to low. My Elena is going to move forward here. Here's the limit break opportunity. So now you're going to start to see more of the imbalance and the agility, where even if it misses on the Elena, which misses one of the two, it's going to help her bring her agility down. So turn order is going to get worse, and that agility down will very slightly affect her evasion going forward here as well. You're going to see Sylvie not do anything. She's just going to move forward, kind of be in range. Getting that unevadable pain, really not doing enough damage. One quick shot to Engelbert. He's dead. My Elena is going to move forward here and miss, and that's totally fine. Sylvie now And you can see she actually has enough accuracy with the Alex ring, with all the luck I've given her via the luck vision cards, that she can actually hit that enemy Elena when my own Elena missed their Elena. So that's a nice thing. And then jamming thrust, even Jaden is accurate enough to hit that Elena. I think that's technically considered a side attack or a back attack, so it also gets the increased accuracy from that. So we're going to move on to the third match here, which was another ice comp. This one is a little bit different in its AI and how it was set up, but functionally very similar in a lot of what it did. Again, my comp's going to start out here. Jaden's going to use that March of the Stag, get everyone's agility up. They're going to hopefully be much, much faster to do what they want to do. My Elena now is going to use Courage, move forward. Sylvie's going to use her re-raise and stand still. Now, a lot of people don't like that. I love that personally. Again, you just keep her out of the way of damage per se, and it just feels good. I know it's tough for a lot of people to get right, but I promise you, it's actually pretty smart AI. So nothing too crazy that you'd expect from Ice yet. So we're just gonna keep moving forward now. Jaden's now going to be in range. So he's not going to get the Zizabels off this time. That's actually okay too. He has enough AP that I'm not horribly worried by that. I wish that hit was a critical hit. That way you could at least bring Snow down to crit. But you'll notice he didn't use his second buff yet to regenerate his health below 20%. So he is going to remain low here, which again, kind of the benefit of a super agile comp is that, you know, my turn order, he's just now in range and he's not going to have the ability to use that AoE as well as HP replenishment. So he's going to retain being low. Sharpshoot there. I proc Courage. Nothing wrong with that. And I'm okay that my Jaden died. You know, I'm obviously hoping on Sylvie and Elena to kind of carry this with their survivability and just good slash synergy. So we're going to heal up here. Elena's going to, I think, use Limit Break if I recall. There it is. So again, Limit Break here. It's, I believe, going to proc Courage on Snow. Kind of the unfortunate side that we weren't able to do that earlier. That's okay. Here comes Sylvie. Bam. Finish the job. Yes, remember this now. So at this point now, obviously there's been enough attacks that the -2 hate for Sylvie is now, you know, competitive with how many hits Elena has at least started to take. And then evasion wise, when an enemy has a 0% chance to hit, they'll prioritize hitting who they can. So even if the hate was out of whack, if Elena was a 0% chance to hit there, they would opt to instead hit my Sylvie, which I think was part of the equation of what happened there. And continues to happen here, where the hate is now definitely shifted, where Sharpshoot also does more damage, I think, to her. But either way, fight ends up going in my favor. So there's a couple things to pick apart there in hindsight, but overall, kind of what I expected, not out of line. We're going to get into the fourth fight here. This is, again, a Monolight versus Monolight, and they are going for a hyper evasion comp with Elena, Violet, and Locke. There's a lot of good things about that kind of comp. Also, a lot of downsides in how one-dimensional you are, though. So it does kind of go relatively boom or bust. I don't want to call it unbalanced, but there's definitely weaknesses, and you'll see that here too, particularly with the not getting the AI perfectly right and making sure they all get the buffs off that they want perfectly. And so, you know how my team acts. I'll talk a little bit about how their team acts. So this is not the worst first move in terms of this Singillion buff. I actually think this is a very underrated buff in terms of the CT up on critical hit. I think it's a, you know, as I'm emphasizing agility here, that's obviously a big part of it. That's actually a very, very strong TMR that Locke just used as well. I feel like this comp would have been better suited to have Locke use it on all three of them as opposed to the Sindrillion buff. But I also don't like Elena's buff there. It's great for mirror matchups in terms of light resistance, but you'll notice in a second here, she doesn't get Courage off and she doesn't get her own evasion up buff off, and so it ends up hurting her in just a moment here. So mine at least gets the AP cost right down and the evasion up. You're going to see Locke move forward again here. Now he's in range. He's going to use his Limit Break on my Elena. She's fortunately evasive enough that it misses her altogether. And just a little lag time for the Limit Break animation. So she moves forward, hits mine, misses one of them. Nothing wrong with that. I'm, you know, in a safe spot. Courage used on Violet. But you'll notice, again, there Elena has not been able to use her normal buffs that she likes in terms of the Courage and the evasion. I get that nice physical magical shield here. Jaden's going to move forward in a moment. And one shot there, Elena. because she doesn't have the proper buffs because of what they opted to do in that opening rotation. I'm still a little confused why my Elena did not attack there. I think it's because she actually can't hit lock. That I think because it's a front attack, she doesn't get the accuracy buffs from the side or the back hit. And I think he still has enough luck from his TMR that I actually think that was like a 0% chance to hit. So she opted to do nothing. That's going to change in a couple minutes as that buff wears off and as my Elena repositions to increase her accuracy rate. But you'll notice they actually do a good job evading a fair amount of hits here. My Elena's going to move, so it's technically a side attack here at this point. I think because he was technically facing the other direction. Yeah. But still gets at least the agility down on him. And fortunately, Jaden has this 100% chance hit in his kit that comes in obviously super handy against comps exactly like this. Again, if you also recall, Locke did not get his re-raise buff on, and we're in a point now where he doesn't have enough AP to attack, so he's just going to basic attack. And kind of the upside of evasion is if he does not land that attack, he gets no AP back, so he's going to remain at 8 AP because he missed. Now, my Sylvie's going to continue to miss here. And again, that's just kind of the RNG nature of it, but she's basically maxed for what she can be for accuracy reasonably. My Elena even misses here, so this is kind of some back and forth until some of the buffs start wearing off. But you're gonna notice that's where I'm very thankful for my team staying grouped together in as many people as there are, because I'm getting the unit affinity buffs of the luck and the dexterity. And you're noticing now where the courage is coming in clutch. Their luck is still missing on mine. Sylvie, I can't remember what she does here. Back attack on lock technically, so it does have enough accuracy to hit, but it misses the violet. And then I think I finish it here. No, I don't. So I think technically they're... I can't remember what happened. I need to look back at that. Doesn't matter. Either way, 100% chance hit. Done. So that's fight number 4, which brings us finally to fight number 5. Now, I'll be honest. I'm kind of surprised this person's running around with this Earth comp. Just given how strong you're seeing a lot of light evasion. If I had to guess, they're probably going for some of the guaranteed hit here that, Oberyn and Noctis do have. I would also tend to think that this comp does decently well against ice. Maybe not great. I personally don't think it's a preferable comp. Yeah, I'll leave my thoughts to that. Either way, my normal opening rotation. I would think their starting AI has some holes in it. So if you're gonna run that comp, you gotta make sure the AI is perfect. I actually do like what they do with Oberyn here on turn 1, but I think their Mashri and Noctis could use a little work. So their Oberyn is gonna move to give this AoE buff. I actually don't hate this. The defense piercing, the AoE resistance. Obviously, Oberyn's gonna potentially have enough time to apply his own barrier buff after this, considering how far back they are on the map still. But that's not gonna end up happening. You'll see why. So Mashri does her re-raise. I don't know if I love the orientation of this so far. This is one of those fights where they're still far back enough that Jaden gets the Zizabels off, which I like a lot, and they're still far back enough that Elena also gets her evasion up. At this point, unless they have a guaranteed hit, they're probably missing almost everything on my Elena. And you see here, their Oberyn actually opts for Keen Blade instead of his self-barrier, which I do think is a mistake. I think that barrier is really important for Oberyn. Noctis is going to get his turn here instead. He's going to use Skyhammer, which actually does not get any benefit from Keenblade because it's a Pierce type attack, so that probably could have done more damage, but it's still an amazing guaranteed ability. Trill shot here, so I get that missile piercing up. Now their Mashu is going to move forward here and use her sub job to try to heal up Noctis, and unfortunately the cast time gets the best of her. Noctis is going to die, and that Mosh return is basically useless. So, in theory, might have been okay, but I think, that comp could use a little tweaking. Sylvie here is now going to use her limit break at the first sign of taking damage. Again, it's so powerful for their survivability and just for the curative potential here. Doesn't always get all 3 of them in it, but when it does, obviously very, very, beneficial to their survivability. Thunder Smite does barely any damage at all, given Oberyn and what he could potentially do for damage. Here comes Jaden. Drill Shot just absolutely demolishes her. Now she does have re-raise, so she will come up here, but obviously you can tell this fight is very much skewing in my favor. She gets a CT up, so she actually will get the next turn here. Misses. Not enough accuracy to hit. Bam. Dead. And Sylvie... Can't remember if she one-shots him here. No, not even close. Either way, delaying the inevitable. Jaden's gonna come in here and finish the job pretty handily. That's fight number 5. So all in all, I ended up at that 738. And do what you will with the level of competition. Obviously, there's a fair amount of holes with some of the AI that we witnessed today. Keep that in mind in terms of level of competition. Also, the 20% light agility can't be understated just for how much that does for Elena's evasion, how much it also does for their turn order potential. So this is not a definitive, conclusive showcase. I just wanted to show you at least one of the many builds you can do with Sylvie, a little bit, at least from a class match perspective, on some of the map strategy, and more than anything, just showing a little bit about what I would probably aim to do here from a vision card perspective on one of these comps. Again, there's a lot of variety to what you can use here, but I think this is a pretty safe one overall for many reasons. But that's it for now. Hopefully this was kind of interesting to watch. I don't know how many of you have Sylvie maxed it, so hopefully this is an interesting showcase. But until I do some more about her, that's it for now. I'll talk to y'all soon.